Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to present to you a brand new story, so let's get started. There was a time when I believed our happiness was a steady, enduring kind that grew over time, rather than relying on constant highs or grand gestures. Lisa and I have been together for 8 years, married for 5. She was the shining light in my life. A beautiful, intelligent woman who appeared to love me as much as I loved her. Or so I thought. Everything changed on a fateful night that started so innocently. We were at a friend's party celebrating his promotion to a senior position at a tech company. The atmosphere was vibrant, with drinks flowing, music blaring, and laughter filling the air. Lisa was thriving in the social setting, effortlessly mingling with others, while I observed quietly, content with my drink in hand, admiring her radiance. However, as the night progressed, Lisa became more intoxicated than usual. I had seen her tipsy before, but this time was different. Her words slurred and she began saying, rewriting the passage for clarity. Initially, the remarks seemed like harmless jokes, poking fun at my routine and in lack of ambition in a humorous way. Although the words were hurtful, I chose to ignore them, attributing them to her intoxicated state. As I assisted her into the car, she suddenly made a cutting statement, expressing dissatisfaction with our marriage and her lack of attraction towards me. Stunned, I asked her to repeat what she had just said, my voice trembling. She confirmed her words, admitting that I no longer excited her and that she found me boring. The drive home was filled with an uneasy silence, broken only by the sound of the engine and her occasional sobs brought on by the alcohol. I felt as though I was merely going through the motions, my hands clenched tightly on the wheel, her hurtful words lingering in the air playing in my mind, each repetition striking harder than the last. The scene unfolded as we arrived home. I'd assisted her to bed, where she collapsed onto the mattress, muttering unintelligibly before quickly succumbing to sleep. I watched her slumbering form, a woman I thought I understood, the foundation of my entire existence. It wasn't solely the absence of attraction that wounded me deeply. It was the disdain in her tone, the way she disregarded all that I was and all I had done for her. My thoughts raced, attempting to comprehend the situation. Had I overlooked the warning signals? Were there even any signs? Had these sentiments lingered within her for a while, or was it merely the influence of alcohol speaking? And just as I reached to tuck her in, the final blow was delivered. She mumbled, "I shouldn't have kissed him." I was frozen in place, my veins turning to ice as the truth dawned on me. It wasn't just about her lack of attraction. She had betrayed me. In that moment, I realized I could not remain. The betrayal was unbearable, the ache too raw. My love for Lisa had been unwavering, all-encompassing, but I shattered it with a few drunken words, unable to bear the thought of waking up beside her and pretending everything was okay. Quietly and methodically, I packed only the essentials, clothes, laptop, cash, wanting to leave no trace behind. By the time the sun crept through the blinds, my decision was made. Lisa stirred as I stood by the door with a suitcase in hand. Torn between the urge to confront her and the need to escape, I left without a word. The closing of the door marked the end of one life and the beginning of another. Driving away, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, hurt, betrayal, but also a sense of resolve. Lisa would wake up to find me gone, knowing why. This departure was just the start of the consequences she would face for breaking my heart. Leaving the house we shared for years was both liberating and terrifying. The suburban roads were quiet, illuminated by flickering streetlights as I drove with determination. Gripping the steering wheel tightly, I felt the need to put as much distance between myself and Lisa as possible. She didn't deserve closure or forgiveness after her betrayal. Eventually, I found a rundown motel off the interstate, its dingy room offering a sense of anonymity I craved. Sitting on the edge of the warm bed, my thoughts raced. How could I disappear without a trace? I fired up my laptop, slowly connecting to the motel's Wi-Fi to begin severing ties with the life I had shared with Lisa. Starting with our joint bank accounts, I transferred my funds to a new, secure account I had set up long before. Considering a fresh start with a business venture at that point in time, it was just business. It had been a precautionary step that Lisa had ridiculed me for. "Why do you always plan for disasters that'll never happen?" she had scoffed. Unbeknownst to myself, I had unknowingly prepared for this scenario. Following that, I officially resigned from my job by sending a concise and professional email to my boss, citing personal reasons for my sudden departure. My job wasn't merely a means of income. It was intertwined with my identity. However, I chose not to take the risk of Lisa using my workplace to track me down. By daybreak, I had eradicated all remnants of myself from our intertwined life. The ownership of the house deed in both our names would be solely hers to manage, along with the credit cards, utilities, and streaming subscriptions. She could retain them all. The only item I left behind was a letter. This letter wasn't intended for her, but rather for my own closure. Writing it brought a sense of finality, enabling me to articulate my emotions without the fear of her misinterpretation or interference. Although brief, the contents of the letter were hastily jotted down on a piece of lined paper. "Lisa," I heard, "you mentioned that I can never unhear what you said. You took something from me that I cannot reclaim. It's not just my trust that you've broken, but also the belief that we were a team in this. Hence, I am departing, and I won't return. Please do not attempt to locate me." I neatly folded the note and placed it on the kitchen counter where I knew she would see it. Subsequently, I exited the door, making sure to lock it behind me for the final time. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. I journeyed across state borders, pausing solely for fuel and inexpensive meals. I got rid of my old phone and procured a basic prepaid device with no frills. I located a somewhat improved motel and began to search for a new place to call home. I'd settled in a mid-sized city a few hours away, a location large enough to disappear in, yet small enough to retain manageability. I secured a clean and affordable studio apartment, paid 3 months' worth of rent in advance, and commenced assembling a fresh start. Every now and then, I would contemplate how Lisa might feel waking up to an empty residence. I envisioned her confusion in the moment she discovered the note. After acknowledging the weight of her actions, a part of me was tempted to call her and gauge her response, but I chose not to. I refused to provide her the satisfaction of knowing that I still cared enough to engage. Instead, I focused on erecting a barrier between my past and present realities. I took the step to deactivate my social media accounts, alter my email, and disregarded the sporadic calls from unfamiliar numbers that I suspected were from Lisa or someone in her support system attempting to track me down. Each unanswered call felt like a triumph, serving as a reminder that I was now the one in charge. The process of rebuilding wasn't without its challenges. I longed for my friends, my familiar routines, and even the everyday moments like the morning sunlight flooding into the kitchen. However, whenever I felt the pull to return, I replayed her hurtful words in my mind. "I'm not attracted to you anymore," along with the bitterness in her tone and the callousness of her confession. And then there was the memory of the betrayal. The kiss that I couldn't overlook or forgive. She hadn't just wounded me. She had disregarded something profound and discarded it carelessly. By the end of the first week, when it had all disappeared, my determination solidified. This was not merely about evading her. It was about ensuring she grasped the magnitude of her actions. She deserved to experience the weight of loss, the abrupt realization of a future shattered. I did not intend to vanish without a trace. I aimed to enforce the repercussions of her choices in a way impossible to overlook. As I sat in my vacant apartment, gazing at the stark walls, a strategy took shape in my mind. Merely leaving her behind was insufficient. I needed to ensure she comprehended the seriousness of her decisions. She had to endure the anguish that currently consumed me. Awakening the next morning, Lisa's initial sensations were a throbbing headache and an unusual silence. Typically, I would have been up and about in the kitchen, preparing coffee or occupied with my phone at the table. But the house was strangely quiet, an unsettling tranquility, denoting the absence of something essential. She groaned as she rolled over and glanced at the clock. It read 10:47 a.m. She realized she was late even for a hungover Saturday. With a heavy heart, she swung her legs over the side of the bed and shuffled into the hallway, calling out for John. There was no answer. A sense of unease crept up within her, growing with each empty room she passed. The kitchen appeared untouched, devoid of any signs of life. Then her eyes fell upon a neatly folded letter on the counter with her name written in John's familiar handwriting, albeit appearing sharper and angrier than usual. As she unfolded the letter and read its contents, her heart sank. The words hit her like a ton of bricks, leaving her breathless. John's message conveyed hurt and betrayal, stating that he couldn't overlook what she had said, and that he was leaving, cutting ties with her. Overwhelmed, she collapsed into a chair, the letter trembling in her hands. As memories of the previous events flooded her mind as night came rushing back in fragments. The party, the drinks, the fight, her words. God, what did I say? And then she remembered. Not all of it, but enough. She remembered laughing, mocking me, saying things she didn't mean, or maybe she did, but not like that. And then the kiss, a moment of drunken stupidity with a coworker she barely knew. Her stomach churned as shame and panic washed over her. Lisa grabbed her phone, dialing my number with shaking hands, straight to voicemail. She tried again, not. She switched to text, firing off messages in rapid succession. John, please call me. Where are you? I'm so sorry. Please come home. Each one went unanswered. By the time she gave up, tears were streaming down her face. The next few days were a nightmare for Lisa. At first, she convinced herself I was just cooling off, taking some time to think. But as the hours stretched into days, reality began to set in. I wasn't coming back. She called everyone she could think of. Our friends, my coworkers, even my parents. No one knew where. I hope this revised version adds clarity and structure to the passage. Let me know if you need further assistance. I was either incommunicado, or if someone knew anything, they weren't sharing it with her. Her attempts to contact the authorities yielded no results. He's an adult, the officer flatly stated, implying that it didn't appear I was missing, rather that I didn't wish to be found. Lisa plunged into the quest, scouring our joint records for any leads. However, my efforts had been exhaustive. The bank accounts were empty, the credit cards revoked. Even my email account had been disabled. It was as if I had mysteriously vanished. As a result, her life took an unexpected turn for the worse. With me gone and no longer able to assist with bills, the financial burden became immediately pressing. She had not realized how much of the household's stability hinged on my support. The mortgage, the utilities, the groceries, tasks I had handled quietly and without complaint. Now confronted with the daunting task of managing everything alone, Lisa felt overwhelmed. Her once lively social life, filled with carefree brunches and late-night chats, gradually faded away. Rumors of her actions at the party had circulated, whispers of unfaithfulness. Drunken confessions overheard by supposed friends. Colleagues who once laughed at her jokes and admired her confidence now avoided her in the break room, offering brittle smiles and brief conversations. Despite striving to maintain composure at work, the pressures and guilt weighed heavily on her. Missed deadlines, abrupt behavior toward coworkers, and prolonged moments of staring at a blank computer screen replaced productivity. During a carefully neutral-toned meeting, her boss inquired about her well-being, noting her recent change in demeanor. Despite her assurance that everything was fine, feigning a smile, he offered support for any personal matters that might be affecting her work performance. The unspoken warning lingered in the air. Her job security was at stake. Nighttime found her dwelling in a vast, empty house, aimlessly wandering through rooms in search of remnants of him. An old shirt, a forgotten notebook, anything to feel connected to the man she had carelessly pushed away. Lisa found herself pushed away. But she had taken everything of value with her. All that was left were painful memories, each one more agonizing than the previous. Coping with guilt and loneliness, she resorted to drinking excessively, hoping to numb the emotions. However, the alcohol only intensified her feelings of remorse, causing a flood of questions to overwhelm her mind. Why didn't she stop herself? Why did she let go of a man who loved her unconditionally? The burden of regret was overwhelming, and she longed to make amends but was unsure of where to start. Left with nothing, both materially and emotionally, she realized she had always seen me as a pillar of strength and stability. Now she understood the consequences of pushing too hard. As time passed, the realization that she had lost me consumed her thoughts, and she had no one to blame but herself. Starting anew provided me with a sense of purpose. My routine was initially straightforward: waking up, going for a run, and getting to know my new city. I landed a part-time job at a nearby hardware store, engrossed in a low-stress activity that kept me occupied and paid the bills. I finally found a sense of independence after years of living for others. Nevertheless, despite my attempts to distance myself, the memory of Lisa's betrayal lingered over me like a haunting shadow. Her words, uttered with disdain, echoed in my mind, along with the image of her carelessly discarding our shared history. Whenever her betrayal crossed my thoughts, a simmering anger rose within me, threatening to overwhelm. My desire wasn't just to disappear from her life. I yearned for her to experience the same shattered, isolated feelings I had endured. Beginning my plan of retribution, I set out to gather information. Familiar with Lisa's tendencies, I anticipated her relentless pursuit. Under an alias, I created a new social media profile, seamlessly blending into her digital world. With her profiles left public, it was effortless to monitor her updates and piece together the current state of her existence. Swiftly validating my assumptions, her online presence confirmed. The once plentiful and consistent messages from her were now few and far between, each one more desperate than the last. A photo of an empty coffee mug with the caption, "Mornings just aren't the same without you," told a silent tale. A late-night selfie captured puffy eyes and a drink in hand, accompanied by a melancholic message. It was evident that she was beginning to unravel. Observing from a distance, I decided to take small, strategic actions to complicate her life. Knowing where she worked, I crafted an anonymous email to her boss, carefully hinting at her affair and unprofessional behavior at a recent party. I avoided being too explicit, aiming instead to sow seeds of doubt about her professionalism without coming across as a scorned ex-partner. The plan proved effective. A few weeks later, she posted about the escalating work stress and feeling overwhelmed. I allowed myself a small, grim smile, imagining the discreet conversations in the office and the subtle change in her colleagues' attitudes towards her. Someone who had been overly friendly at the party was easily traceable online. Sending a discreet message to his wife, confirming his marital status, triggered turmoil in his personal life. Although I didn't explicitly name Lisa, I knew she would inevitably be affected. Her social media presence began to reflect a growing unease, with strained smiles and anxious posts. Even in a cheerful group photo at happy hour with her colleagues, her caption hinted at a struggle to maintain positivity. Despite a sense of satisfaction at witnessing her distress, moments of doubt would occasionally surface. Was I crossing a line? Was this revenge or justified justice? Yet, memories of the night of suffering, embarrassment, and betrayal would resolutely reaffirm my determination. Feeling robbed by Lisa, I believed she should experience the same pain and emptiness I endured. One night, I unexpectedly received an email from a mutual acquaintance, reviving connections I had severed since my departure. Seeing his name appear in my inbox was a shock. The message was short and to the point. "John, Lisa has been inquiring about you. She's not doing well. I don't know what transpired between the two of you, but I felt you should be aware." The words from Mark lingered on the screen as I paused for a moment. A part of me yearned to reach out and explain everything, but deep down I knew it wouldn't change anything. Telling my side of the story wouldn't undo the hurt she had caused or alleviate the pain. So instead of engaging in direct confrontation, I resorted to a different approach. Under the guise of anonymity, I created fake accounts to send her messages that harbored a sharp sting of rebuke. "Do you feel remorse?" One message questioned, while another coldly declared, "Forgiveness is not for you." As a result, Lisa's once carefully constructed online presence began to crumble, replaced by a palpable sense of despair in her fleeting posts. It became evident that she was struggling, and the weight of knowing I played a role in her turmoil sat heavily on my conscience. Yet, amidst the chaos I had orchestrated, a nagging feeling persisted within me. Observing Lisa's world collapse from afar wasn't enough. I yearned for her to acknowledge that it was I who instigated the chain of events, leading her to confront the repercussions of her actions. Taking action directly was the next step, yet to do so would require me to break my silence and confront her in a manner I wasn't fully prepared for. As I sat in my modest apartment surrounded by remnants of my new life, I came to the realization that the best way to move on was to address this unresolved chapter. It was essential for Lisa to understand the impact of her actions on me, and for me to witness her response firsthand. The time for avoidance had passed. It was time to face the situation head-on. Despite my strategic efforts to dismantle Lisa's world over the weeks that turned into months, I found no solace in seeking revenge. What once seemed satisfying now felt empty. I yearned for her to grasp the true extent of the pain she had inflicted on me, not solely through the aftermath but by direct confrontation. She needed to hear my voice again, not for reconciliation, but for the accountability she warranted. One evening, I composed a concise email to her, stating that she shouldn't seek me out as I was not lost or forgotten, and observing her struggles from a distance. Lisa, I've seen your attempts to locate me. Cease. I have no intention of returning. I have moved forward and I no longer feel obligated to you, but I want to express this. You have experienced only a fraction of what you deserve with every tear shed and every aspect of your life that has crumbled. You betrayed me, and now you are facing the consequences. You do not have the right to seek forgiveness. You made your decision, and I made mine. Farewell forever. Before sending the message, I hesitated. A part of me questioned whether this would revive pain for both of us, but my anger overtook any uncertainties. I clicked send and dispatched the words to her inbox. Surprisingly, I received a response sooner than expected. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed, indicating a message from the anonymous email account I had created. The message read, "John, please just speak with me. I am willing to do anything. I am unsure of what is more agonizing, my actions towards you or the consequences I am facing. I have lost everything, and I acknowledge that it is my own doing. However, I need to apologize. Please grant me the opportunity." Her words shook me like a minor earthquake, subtle yet unsettling. I could feel her desperation and regret, however, it failed to soften me. If anything, it fueled my anger even more. Instead of responding, I chose to escalate the situation. I sent another anonymous message, pretending to be someone who overheard rumors about Lisa at her office. I hinted that her actions were not a secret, and that people were aware of what she had done. The message was crafted to keep her on edge, making her wonder how much was known about her misdeeds. The idea of her feeling anxious brought a sense of satisfaction to me. Days later, a longer, almost desperate email arrived. In this message, the sender expressed deep regret and begged for forgiveness, acknowledging the magnitude of their mistake and the preciousness of what was lost. He gazed at the message, filled with raw emotion and longing. The weight of lost love and the desire for reconciliation radiate from the words. The plea for a chance to express feelings face-to-face tugs at my heartstrings. The impact of her words catches me off guard. The anger I held onto so tightly suddenly feels burdensome, almost suffocating. Did I really want to see her in pain and turmoil all this time? Or did I yearn for her to grasp the true extent of the love that had been shattered? Resolved to address the situation head-on, I make a decision. Not seeking forgiveness, but aiming to make her comprehend the gravity of her actions. Utilizing an anonymous email, I provide her with a meeting place and time. A serene coffee shop in the bustling city, far removed from our shared past. If you have something to say, meet me here tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. I'll grant you 5 minutes. With a sense of finality, the message is sent. The following day, I arrive ahead of time at the sparsely populated coffee shop, brimming with anticipation of what is to come, seated at a corner table in a quiet cafe, surrounded by people sipping their drinks or typing away on laptops. I awaited Lisa's arrival. As she entered right on time, her face pallid and tense, Her eyes darting nervously around the room, a mixture of relief and sorrow washed over her features upon spotting me. "John," she whispered, making her way over and taking a seat across from me. Allowing the silence to linger between us, I observed as she nervously played with her hands, her lips quivering as she struggled to find the right words. "I don't even know where to begin," she stuttered. "I'm truly sorry for everything, for my words, for my actions. You didn't deserve any of that." Leaning back in my chair, I crossed my arms. "You're correct, I didn't," I stated firmly, noticing her flinch as tears welled up in her eyes. "I was foolish, self-centered. I don't know what came over me. I convinced myself. I don't know, I thought I wanted something more, something different. But I was mistaken. I lost the most significant thing I ever had. And now I can't repair it." Her words lingered in the atmosphere, heavy with remorse. In that moment, a pang of empathy washed over me, and I sensed that the tiniest glimmer of compassion flickered within me. But it couldn't undo the damage she had caused. "Lisa," I finally spoke, my voice unwavering yet icy. "Do you comprehend the pain of hearing the person you cherish declare they no longer want you? To discover they have betrayed you in the most profound way possible? Because that's what you've done to me." "I know," she murmured, tears cascading down her cheeks. "I know, and I will carry that regret every day for the rest of my life." "Good," I replied, rising to my feet. "You should." Without another word, I exited, leaving her to linger there shattered and solitary, just as she had left me. As I strode out of the cafe, a definitive sense of closure enveloped me. The dreaded yet strangely anticipated confrontation had concluded. Lisa's tears, her shattered voice, and her heartfelt apologies were all bared, yet they didn't provide the satisfaction I had envisioned. In place of mine anger, a hollow ache lingered. I had awaited this instant for months, convinced it would deliver the ultimate vindication. However, as I turned the corner and left Lisa behind permanently, a profound realization struck me. I was not yet free. In the following days, I grappled with my swirling emotions. My long-held anger had been a driving force, making it difficult to let go. My life had been constructed on a bedrock of resentment, and now that foundation was crumbling beneath me. To cope, I immersed myself in work, went on lengthier runs, and sought solace in the quiet of my apartment. However, despite my efforts, Lisa's haunting words at the coffee shop, "I'll regret it every day for the rest of my life," persisted in my mind. The weight of regret was burdensome, inflicting its own unique pain. It wasn't just Lisa who carried this burden. I bore it as well. One sleepless night, I sat down with a journal I had found at a thrift store. In its pages, I poured out all my feelings: betrayal, heartbreak, fury, and the subsequent void. The act of writing became a cathartic release, lifting a heavy load from my chest and slowly purging me of the poison I had been harboring after completing the task. I gazed at the pages in front of me, lost in thought. Unsure if I sought forgiveness or simply a path forward, one thing was clear: I could not continue living in the shadow of Lisa and her actions. It was time to prioritize my own well-being, ambitions, and joy. Lisa, undergoing her own inner turmoil, seemed to be struggling as well. Rumors circulating through mutual connections hinted at her withdrawal from work and social life. The facade of perfection she clung to was crumbling. Despite a fleeting desire to offer comfort and understanding, I recognized that revisiting the past would only complicate matters. Embracing a new beginning, I dedicated myself to personal growth, signing up for woodworking classes that had long piqued my interest. I joined a local hiking group and found new friends who were unaware of my past. Gradually, my life's puzzle pieces started to come together. One day, as I hiked through a trail amidst the nearby mountains, I stopped to admire the sunset casting a warm orange glow. It was the first time in what felt like an eternity that I experienced a sense of peace. Despite the lingering scar of Lisa's betrayal, it no longer defined me. I had endured and emerged stronger. As for Lisa, her fate remained unknown to me. I could only speculate on whether she was still grappling with the aftermath she had wrought. Redemption or regret, her path was a mystery I was content to leave unsolved. Life's complexities don't always resolve neatly, People wound each other, erred, and carry their scars differently. What I had realized was that healing doesn't derive from seeking revenge or closure, but from releasing. On a tranquil spring morning, I let go by setting fire to the journal where my thoughts had resided, watching the flames engulf the pages. I felt the weight of my pain dissipate as the smoke carried a final farewell into the sky. I had evolved from the man who had left Lisa, and for that, I was thankful. A new version of myself emerged, one that was resilient, wise, and free from the burdens of the past. Walking away from the ashes, I held on to the realization that while I couldn't control others' actions, I could control my own reactions. With these words in my heart, I chose to move forward, leaving the pain and thirst for revenge behind. Thank you for following along until the end. If you found the story engaging, please consider hitting the like button. A small but meaningful gesture. Remember to subscribe to our channel for more content, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for early access. Stay tuned for the next video,